All right, good people. We're back here for the episode 2 recap of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, where this episode is titled Gone. Zero and I are here to give you some commentary on what I feel is another fantastic episode, 2 for 2. Zero, would you share the same sentiments, or what's your thoughts about jumping into this episode after a super explosive calling the finale conclusion of last week's episodes? What's your thoughts going in jumping into this one?
I'm just happy that we got our questions answered, like for the most part. The most important questions that we were answering after last week's episode were answered pretty quickly in this one. So I don't have much to say about like the progression of the story. I think it's like a good pace right now. It's a good feel.
Yeah.
I'm heartbroken, man. I think that's a good thing for the state of this show, but
Yeah.
I'm heartbroken after this episode. I really am.
Yeah. Where do I start? First of all, with this episode being the focus of Michonne, I did like that. The first episode was obviously the focus on Rick, so coming back for the second episode being focused on Michonne, jumping into 6 years after the bridge, and then ultimately working us into the current timeline, which is a total of 7 years because Michonne obviously spent a year after that chlorine gas bombing, really getting herself back together with Nat. But as you mentioned, yeah, we did get a lot of the questions that we had from last week answered on this episode, plus more questions now, so it's all good. And then yeah, as I mentioned, 2 for 2, great episode. Y'all already can let us know in the comments right now your thoughts about this episode, some of your favorite moments, and we're going to break everything down, give you your commentary on it. So much like the first episode, we kind of start off at the end of the episode and kind of revert back. So we start off with the explosions, and we started this one off sort of with an explosion with Michonne kind of looking at this herd, which is definitely the impossible task. And as they mentioned earlier, like, listen, that's suicide if you're going there. It's not going to happen. And we get this walker, the walker that says, "Gas man, let me help you," which was interesting. I want to start off right there because I thought it was interesting that this gas man was walking towards her. And I'm sure we're going to come back to this, but notice how all of the other walkers were going towards the noise or the fire, the explosions going back. And this one comes towards her. I think it's a clear indication. And I don't know if she immediately picked up on it. I think she did kind of look like, wait, what? And I don't know, was it because he had a gas tank on him, or because he had, a language on his shirt, or did it click to her like, wait a minute, this walker's not acting normal, which us as the viewers, we know that there's mutated walkers out there, but all of our primary characters haven't encountered them just yet. So I did like that because that's like a little bit of a nod or a little bit of a reminder to the viewers. Like, I know this is like coming straight off of the flagship show, but we have reminded you more times than enough.
Right.
There's some other mutations out there.
We might be going back to the beginning with our legacy characters, but, just have to remind everyone that the world has changed and our primary source of evil has also changed, little to their knowledge, but now it's everyone's will be soon, I'm sure, on the same page about the dangers of the outside, man. It just keeps getting scarier.
Yeah, and I like it. I mean, they did such a fantastic job with the flaming walkers on episode 1, so I'm like, blow that baby up.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, moving forward, again, this is Michonne's story with this episode. So we, again, 6 years after the bridge, we do get introduced to the caravan community, which we know that Michonne helped 2 of them in the flagship show. And now we see that they're a part of this whole community. So we see Michonne basically talking to Elle, who is the leader of this community, who she says, I need help. I need to get back to the man I love. Give me a horse or something, because Michonne brought you back your sister Aiden and her boyfriend, which we know is her baby father or husband, whatever, Bailey, played by Andrew King Bachelor. So good to see him back. But like, there's a lot to kind of make with this, because Michonne just very nicely and very much in who we know her to be is that she doesn't leave anyone behind. So her doing this ain't really a solid. It's kind of like, well, this is just what I do, but you could help me if I wanted. And Elle's like, yeah, we don't stop for nobody, even if it's my sister who's pregnant. Like, what was just your thoughts about sort of us understanding this new community, this caravan community? And yes, there's some things that have changed with this community towards the end of this episode, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is the last time we see them. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But if so, just automatically, what's just your thoughts about the build of this community, and Elle, who doesn't even care if her family members is left behind, which is savage, you know?
Honestly, not thinking too much about it. I'm not really looking at her as a larger threat. Especially with the previous episode, when we figure out, that there are definitely more powerful forces at play. Something that I did think about, however, when we were met with her stubbornness in that, in the first third, was that this new caravan community, the nomads, they could be a pawn in this. They could really easily be susceptible to becoming a pawn in this greater thing, which we now know that, once again, alliances are kind of a huge deal in this, apocalyptic world of us humanity trying to repair itself. So I did think that could be a possibility, especially because I don't know, I'm not sensing like a crazy threat with this one. I also think that just the way that the group operates is a little bit rudimentary. And we've seen, other groups in the history of The Walking Dead that are also that kind of rudimentary, like, rise and fall very, very quickly. So I'm not really expecting them to make much of a comeback. I would love it if I'm wrong. That would be great. But I do think that they're, the fact that they're so rudimentary and kind of, I hate that I want to say old school, but like old school in terms of like the Walking Dead groups, you know what I mean? They could totally be susceptible to becoming a pawn in this greater thing that we already know is kind of starting like a web. So those were my thoughts.
Yeah, I got a feeling that Elle, who thinks she's an A, whether she knows the classifications or not, may be somewhere in the CR as a B. As a lot, seeing her alive is like we didn't even think you as a threat, and she's off of the merit of, well, we operate like this is because this is how we survive. So as the leader, typically leaders and folks who don't confine to instructions, yeah, surely those are A's. But I think it may be funny to see her in the Civil Republic as a B, because she was not. And to understand that her philosophy that she was so strong about was flawed, and they just saw right through it. But we'll see. And if it's not, then so be it. At least they just tied that together. But I was very excited for this casting. Matthew Jeffers, who is the character Nat, I was first introduced to Matthew in a film that I viewed last year, 2 years ago, 2022. And I believe it was at Tribeca. And this film was Unidentified Objects. That movie is fantastic. Please go check it out. And yeah, he's in one of my favorite shows, New Amsterdam. But before then, was my introduction, like in a true flat out acting role, as the character Peter in Unidentified Objects. Please go watch that film. Seeing him introduced, I said, yeah, this is talent. And the character comes in with so much charisma, very fiery, pouring out his emotions about why he doesn't believe this in the system. Letting Elle, like, you just gonna leave your sister, you just gonna leave Bailey out there, like, what are we doing? Like, we're better than this. Like, I keep this thing going, and this is how we're gonna do them. Only to not know they were right behind him, which was kind of like a chuckle moment. But I did love that instantly he looked at Michonne, was like, whatever you need. Yep. You want to ride VIP, whatever you need. And as Michonne says, like, I help people. I don't leave people behind. He said, me neither. She says, but why are you here? Instantly casted doubt in the doubt he already had, which makes sense why later on you see that him and a few others decided to join her. But she says, I don't want to be here. I love Michonne. No complacency here. I can't be here. I need this horse. I need to get to Bridger's shipyard because that's the last I've seen any bit of intel that leads me to think that Rick is there. So there's that. The next thing is that Michonne this is really dope if folks don't understand what's happening here. But Michonne on the walkie-talkie, and she is trying to communicate with Judith. And I love, just to kind of go forward, I love the conversation between Rick and Michonne where he says Judith is us, which is what we said last week in the episode, is that like there's no doubt about what Judith can do out here because she is a product of us. We prepared her for all this, but we'll come to that in a second. But when she walkie-talkie Judith, notice that she's saying Shoto because she's talking in code, doesn't want anybody to intercept. I mean, this is just completely brilliant. But if folks don't know what Shoto mean, it ain't just a random word that she's just picking out of nowhere. It is from Japanese is translated as short sword. So she's Daito, who's translated from long sword. So I thought this was hella cute between the two of them to have that, because yes, short, obviously the big sword is obviously Michonne. She let y'all know last week and this week again. But Judith, carrying the gun and carrying the sword, the smaller sword, but smaller person. But because she is a product of Michonne and Rick. I thought that was really cute, and I thought that was a nice little touch for them to have. And I love that, even throughout this journey, she's finding her ways to communicate back home. But kind of just moving forward, just going over quick events. She gets the armor, she gets the horse, and then Nat lets her know that, like, listen, you're going to be out of range soon, so why you're not going to be able to communicate with her through the walkie-talkie? Here's a notebook. Here's a way how you can kind of just detail everything that's happening, and you can give it back to her. So ultimately, to this point, she got what she needs. She's equipped. She's going on this journey, and now it is Michonne versus this humongous herd. But she got some firepower, which we know was given by Nat, which is just really cool. But when at this point now, is where I want to know, because now we see Michonne toting this very random type of grenade launcher or rocket launcher, small compact version, versus the herd. And what did you think? The odds are clearly against her. We know who now has some firepower, so you start to think like, oh, that's the same type of ballistics missile that we saw get put into my man Okafor last week. What was just kind of going through your thoughts, seeing the herd, knowing that, starting to piece things together? And granted, it's only like a chill 15 minutes has passed in this episode.
Yes. Okay, so at this moment in the episode, the only thing I'm really thinking about is how crazy of an asset Nat's character is.
Man.
He is, I don't give a fuck whatever my situation is. If I'm living behind walls, if I'm out in the open, I need to be wherever he is, because
Bingo.
He is protection. That is a source that you can't just like steal from, somebody or a group or anything, which makes his value like unimaginable. I still didn't put together that it could have been his technology behind what brought the helicopter down, because at this time we didn't really see yet how capable he was of like creating things. I know, like, okay, this guy knows how to build. This guy has probably like a really good source of gasoline somewhere, or knows how to rig, and randomly has access to like a rocket launcher, which is like really awesome to set up our girl. But I'm not thinking that he's that capable, which of course I was wrong. He is very, very fucking capable. I love that scene. It was kind of like romantic in a weird way. You know what it kind of reminded me of? It reminded me of the scene in The Fellowship of the Ring, when everyone, like all the different races are like coming together, you're like, you have my sword and my axe, you know, like, you know, everyone's coming together. She's now heavily armed because she has this guy who is definitely loyal and appreciates like her values as a person in this world, and also vice versa. So now I'm kind of feeling like, okay, we're a little unstoppable right now. Like she's set up real good. And not only do they have the tech, they do have the knowledge of just being outside, how to, you know, not waste your technology too much. Like, you know, the parting of the seas was a really crazy thing to see.
Listen,
and also just like,
my
okay,
man
we're set
Moses,
up.
my man Moses came down.
He sure did.
Let my people go. Oh boy, biblical references in The Walking Dead. I mean, granted, you know, they always say the zombie apocalypse is so supposed to be like some biblical coming. So I thought that was kind of funny that how they did that. But yeah, you're entirely right about Nat. I mean, listen, Nat having just not only the arson skills, but just the knowledge, period. He's respected by everybody. It's a huge loss for the caravan community. But whoever is equipped next to him definitely is getting more than somebody who just has skills on knowing how to blow up stuff. But like, it's not just I make stuff to blow stuff up. There is a certain level of responsibility behind it, because like he said, listen, I figured out how to work the gas over there, the colored gas for the burn for a certain period of time. That would keep them distracted. You know, he had already put this together. What's interesting is that they understood that these herds and how to operate around these herds during their migration season, right? So he already had the capability of wanting to do more whenever the opportunity present. And much like Bailey and Aiden said, they said, listen, we wanted to stop being afraid of being stupid. So we wanted to get out here and do some things. And I think that was sort of just their interest in knowing that they saw a leader in Michonne. They saw somebody that was living outside the box, that wasn't playing by the rules of this community in L. And then they had to bring Nat along, and Nat read the room, brought the beer, and say, yeah, we got a plan. I got this whole herd that was right here that the whole caravan community avoided. I just got rid of them in no time, no problem. And we're just chilling. So it tells me too that Nat also, because we learned a lot about his past, but I think he's also was semi-suffering from somebody who didn't believe in him, because L kind of was like, I run things, I keep people safe, the regular, as you say, the OG dictatorship in The Walking Dead, and this is how it's going to be. I don't care if your idea is better. Granted, if she was savage, she probably would have tried to kill him, because that's truly OG Walking Dead there. And anytime anybody questions the threat, get him out of there, you know? So this was all just the stars aligning for everybody, you know? But yeah, once I was like, oh, my man got the army guns out here, I was like, oh boy, he gonna be very useful very soon. So but as I mentioned really quickly again, like, yeah, the one walker, when she shot the walker, and then the head exploded back to her and she fell off the horse, that walker was already coming towards her. The other walker had already split because of the respective fires in their direction, but this one's coming right to her. And then after that happened, she fell off, then they started to veer back to her. So like normal walker behavior, and then obviously one of the high IQ ones kind of existing there. So that threat is right there, little they know it or not. But with that being said, we learned that Aiden is pregnant. We also learned in very dumb knowledge, I think is it dumb knowledge or useless knowledge? I think it's called useless knowledge. That honey never expires. So honey is the reason why Bailey had gotten to the situation where Michonne and them finding us. So again, tying up things that she wanted honey because she was pregnant. Honey doesn't expire, and bada bing, bada boom. So there's that. But then you know, everyone's getting close, and I think that Michonne clearly sees these folks as good people, which is why, you know, at some point in this episode she mentions like, hey, y'all go back to Alexandria. Let me do what I gotta do. I gotta get Rick. But I love this. Just Zero. you have to remind me this is The Walking Dead, because I'm buying into all the love stuff and all of the camaraderie and just these beautiful moments. I'm just like, she's like, we're not going back until you find him. And I'm like, great idea, because that's what a real friend should do. little do you know, if she had to just went back to Alexandria at this moment, a lot would be different right now.
Yep. And
did you see
and
the foreshadow?
ways. Well, honestly, this whole kind of like powwow around the fire when everyone's talking about, what are we going to do next? And, we can create something and you guys are going to come with me and everything is going to be great. My mind, that's a goodbye. You are all dying. You are all dying tonight. Tonight. Granted, it wasn't tonight, but we've been around long enough to understand that, promise and hopes of safety and future in a really sure way like that actually just means goodbye.
It definitely do. I gotta episode 3, folks. I promise you, I would not be so gullible to love. Once again, they got me 3 times in this episode. This is the first one for sure. I was like,
yeah. It's February, love is in the air or whatever. Like, I want to believe, this whole episode is like, just believe a little bit longer. I want to believe, but also there's a formula and we are very hip to the formula at this point.
Yeah.
So don't get shaken up about it. It was very sweet though. It was very sweet and definitely like a little bit of a power kick that we needed. And it fits well after, the Fellowship of the Ring scene when we all decide that we're going to band together and be this band of brothers and we're going to do the thing and this is how great it's going to be. And then here comes a goodbye. And
jeez. So anyway, they moved to the man. This scene is just brutal. So they're moving through the town, and I think Bailey had said he saw something, so they halted for a moment, and whatever they might have been seeing on the ground or anything on the surface view, there's a nice little helicopter coming through, then spinning the block, and it just gets pretty. I mean, it was a big bird bomb. Like things got bright and yellow very quick. And these what we found out, this was a chlorine bomb. I don't have any knowledge on this, but Nat definitely let the viewers know, because Nat said, like, I researched this because I was thinking about this for the football team.
Yeah.
Nat was out here trying to.
That's a G. You need him.
he got something on he got a chip on his shoulder for multiple folks. So, which, yeah, he had one on this episode too, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, when they dropped this poison gas, man, it was just all bad. It was all bad because there's a lot to really make from this. So, let me go over some of my assessments with this. One, we see that people are bleeding from the mouth, from the nose. I mean, this is bad. They can't breathe. So this is the lungs being burnt up, and this instantly cause people to die. So in all sensitivity of me saying this though, but like, I think if you want to think about what they're trying to depict here, I mean, this is like almost in terms of nuclear war. When you think about, or if you've read or if you've seen sort of just the events of Hiroshima, that like, this is bad. You now, to me, you have to sort of view CRM and not just we're trying to eliminate people. We're trying to like mess up generations, and we're trying to like, this is what's the word here? Genocide. This is genocide. And when you think about what happened back in Omaha, I mean, yeah, this is on par. Who ordered this? It has to be the next question. Who sent out a helicopter to take let's just guess, 50 people? Max?
Yeah.
And you said, yeah, we're not going to shoot it up, because that's what I thought. I said, oh, he's about to, the guns are about to get to flying. And they said, no, absolutely not. And I mean, people instantly died. Others' lungs were burning up. This was really, really bad quick. To the point that Michonne, which is interesting, Michonne is swift with the blade. Notice how she struggled instantly to cut off. She had like, I think she had like 3 walkers, and 2 of the 3 she was not able to get it done. So I mean, this right here was like very bad. Just really quick before we get into the next of everything, when you saw this, and I know this is the Rick and Michonne show, did it ever cross your mind that this potentially would be a moment where we would either lose Michonne or get less of Michonne? And I know that like eventually she has to meet Rick, and she hasn't yet. But at this moment, did you ever draw a huge concern for her because of it? Because this is, to me, this might be the worst we've ever seen her in shape, if all we've known her to be. So did it ever cross your mind that like this is bad of almost the point of no return?
Definitely not to the point of no return, but this was obviously super detrimental. And now, after watching the episode, we know that it took her that last year, that it also took Rick to cope and to commit to the situation that he was in. So what I was thinking when this happened, and when we lose Aiden and Bailey to the chlorine gas, I'm thinking, unborn. and their child, I'm thinking that this is going to be like it's gonna kill Michonne's drive, essentially, because that last push over the edge in the helicopter, or that last year for Rick that ended in the helicopter, that was like the last push that he needed to basically give up. So I didn't think she was gonna die, especially because, we know what happens, and we have 5-6 episodes left. So like, all right, let me like relax with the speculation. But that very, very well could have been like the death of her drive. Like I could see her just kind of giving up at that point, which is kind of what happened after that. She gave up and decided, I'm going to keep on, I'm going to hold on to my hope that he's still out there, but I'm going to go return to my children because, they are the ones who need me at this very moment, instead of searching for something. And that was the same thing that Rick was thinking at that final year, that, is, and we heard it in the last letter that he wrote to her, was, I'm just going to keep on hoping that you're okay and that you're out there. But essentially, I'm going to give up now. And I definitely saw those two parallels. So anything after that point is just, okay, you're just meeting him by accident, because there's no way that she's going to have the drive after something like that. After, we have our Band of Brothers scene, and, I finally have people that I trust and that I care about again, people that are useful and that will fight for me, and I can fight for them, and we're going to do this together, and then we're going to rebuild something when we all get back to my kids, and it's going to be great. And then you all get murked with chlorine gas. How could anyone keep going after that? But I'm glad you brought the parallels. That's definitely something I was going to say. The duality in the storytelling is definitely that they had storyboard points, and they were filling in the moments with each of the characters. So there's a lot of comparisons to the emotional and the mental and even the physical rebuilding of themselves in that 1 year block of where they had lost hope to where they got to the point where they met each other. So I'm glad you touched on that. I thought that Aiden on her dying bed saying, "Get back to your babies, don't risk it," was a very, first of all, I chuckled a little bit, because Aiden 1 moment ago was like, we're going to Rick. This is like, right now I'm dying. It's different. It's different now
for me. Now I know what I was saying earlier, but I didn't stand on business here. So
I know. She was standing on business.
Let's get back to them babies. Fuck Rick. But it was also sad because Nat, as a person who clearly he has nothing against wanting to get rid of enemies. He could not build himself up to hurting Bailey and even putting Aiden out as well too. So he was just hiding. It was a sad thing, and he said thank you to Michonne. But I gotta tell you, man, it was a little iconic. It was a little metaphorical, should I say? Him standing in front of the flames, because I think that's that point where Nat. I honestly, I think we can almost even have a whole discussion on just Nat in this episode, because Nat in front of the fire there was him really building up. Where when we talk about folks who like go off on the edge and then something wild happens, I think that was the very moment where he was like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna pay for this. We're gonna once we get back, Michonne gets to O2 and they go through that year of everything, and they grow a good bond over the year. Learn a lot about Nat in his past, and just all this stuff, and we're building the strength, just taking it slow, etc., etc. We see the 4 seasons go by, and that's how I equate it to the year or whatnot. And then Nat being there to encourage her. So like while Nat is giving that sort of like motivation to Michonne, Rick was also getting it from Okafor, was getting it from Thorne. So like the dualities put characters next to our main characters who are going to build them up to get to the point of them getting back to each other. So that's what happened with the year. And I mean, it was crazy because we see her building back up her strength. She got Rick boots, which, small little Easter egg, but they revealed it later if you didn't pick it up then. But then Nat, she said, listen, you've done a lot, man. Please go to Alexandria. I'm going to tell you the password when you get up there and the little dance you got to do, and you good. And he said, nah, it's me and you. And you know what we got to do. And she's like, but you know how this is going to go. She said, and he said, I know exactly how this is going to end. Right there in his eyes. My man was like, yeah, receipt on the way. And I mean, he just talked about how he wanted to drop a chlorine bomb on the football team. You don't think he's going to give it to CRM for getting rid of his folks? Oh, he's been waiting for this whole year. He has been cooking up something nice for them. You know what I mean? But with that being said, it was really beautiful to see the two of them bond, and even to the point of Michonne getting the walker, carrying the cart, and getting more advice about believing. And then even this is where you talk about this is something I didn't want to forget. Didn't you know how you mentioned about the walkie-talkie being out of range? You said at that point they were still with the caravan. Said, listen, a little bit after this, you're not going to be in range no more. And then the walkie-talkie gives some type of transmission who only one person has access to that line. So that's Judith trying to talk to her. That's the sign that she needed, that her kids are okay. And she breaks down. Hell, that got me a little choked up seeing Denai. It was a fantastic actor cry. But she got the motivation from her new friend. She got the sign from her daughter. He already said he game. He said, forget all that, we going. And she broke down and cried, and I was like, "Oh man, this ain't looking good." I mean, granted, we know how at what point this is going to get to a point, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, whoever comes in their path, this is not good. This is a person out for a person motivated by revenge and a person motivated by love. I don't know what else is more dangerous besides a level of hate out there that we don't need to have on our television screens. But these are two very dangerously motivated folks heading in the same direction. So just at this point now, because after this we get to the current time, because after the year, just what was just your thoughts about Nat and Michonne's bond, and then ultimately knowing where the roads were headed?
At this point, I'm worried. I'm worried for Nat because I know how things go. To be completely honest,
dumb moment number 2 for me.
Yeah, just once again, I'm just like this. It's not because it's not looking good. It's because it's really looking good. It's really looking good for both of them, which tells me that I should actually be thinking the opposite. And I don't want to say I was right, but I definitely was right. But I'm also just thinking about how much of an asset he is. Now that I know, not only because of his skills and his knowledge, but also his outlook on things and his ride or die nature. That's what keeps people alive. It really, I mean, we've seen for how many years now, someone could be good at something or like have a skill, but it's like the full circle of it that really helps you survive. So at this point, when we're sitting around this campfire, I'm just crossing my fingers. Like, this is a seriously fleshed out character. And that's what I love about The Walking Dead. It's so good about that and getting the full story of a character, even if they have, pretty short screen time. But we learn so much about him and his backstory in only one episode. And now we can see the effects on his childhood and what he went through before the end of the world and why that makes him such an asset, such a loyal person, such a, a strong pillar that's definitely Michonne needs, or I think anyone would need in this situation. But I'm glad I'm talking about this guy like he's I mean he is, but like, I'm never gonna see this actor ever again in my life. But just really strong, really, really strong character, good casting, great backstory. Also the writing, great dialogue for him. He's like really witty and choppy. And again, I know the formula, so this kind of seems like a little bit of a goodbye, especially when he puts down the walkie in front of the fire and it starts to crackle like somebody's trying to come through.
Yeah.
Like, man, is this another one? Is this another goodbye?
Well, listen, I'll go for it. I'll give my thoughts in a second. But yeah, so now that we're in the current date, they're walking and they say that's them. They see the helicopter in the sky and it's time. And now we're starting to get the other vantage points in terms of when Rick and Okafor was in the helicopter to who was on the ground now in Nat and Michonne. And Michonne and Nat both looked at each other and says, I'm not running. So I'm like, all right, it's time to go. My man gets his rocket launcher. That first one.
Insane.
The first one that he shot, and he said, oh man, it didn't work.
I don't know about that, brother. I don't know.
He put that second one up. Yeah, that first one worked more than he ever could imagine. But he put that second one up, and that brings the helicopter down. So Michonne is down there executing folks, telling them to look at me. And this is a little bit of both. I know last week I said she was being proficient and wanting to make sure that you found Rick. Why was that? But it also was a very much of her letting her know who your maker is because you killed my folks. Here's your receipt.
Yeah.
And this was definitely both of them all the way motivated for the sake of their friends. But anyway, gets Rick. So now we're getting the full circle of them and whatnot. And first thing Rick does is asks about Judith and lets her know that I'm not with them. And then they kiss and the kiss hits, man. It's a good moment. They shot that beautifully. You believe into them and their them being reunited after we just seen the last week. So this is when you got good storytelling because you feel it again, at least for me. And oh boy, see, here's strike 3 for me because I'm like, oh man, they good. And then folks, The Walking Dead, I instantly had to observe just how much time was left on the episode because I was like, oh, this is it. They met each other in the episode. Nat over there like, hey, is that Rick? Is that him? It's like, oh yes, it's him. Yeah, but even before that, Rick says they're coming. He gives out the plan. You can't let them know anything about you. Basically trying to let her know you can't show them that you're an A, which is interesting because right before that helicopter went down, Rick and Okafor said that there was no more A's and B's, but he still is preparing her to show that she's a B. I don't know what that means. I don't know why that's a thing, but I get, hopefully we get some more information on that next week. That was the next question. That it seemed like after that year they got rid of their little profiling system, and as soon as that year and everything go down after conversation, he's like, "Don't tell them you're an A." Well, why not if A's and B's aren't a thing? So I don't know, but anyway, then as I mentioned, he gets
actually hold on. Let me say something on that point really quickly. I feel like at this point, Rick is different. And I started to sense this after the initial unite, after the helicopter goes down. And I'm not exactly sure if this happened during that scene or when Michonne finally makes it to the base and then Rick pulls her aside and they have their special moment. But Michonne willingly omits the part 2 about what's waiting back in Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, that is a really, really wise move.
Yeah.
Because something with Rick's behavior is not really adding up. And it kind of feels like a little brainwashing, like the effects of a cult. Like he's really been indoctrinated into this way of life at this point, especially after being 6 years on the outside and then having to spend that last year trying to commit and then finally being able to commit. Something about Rick is different. And although he still has the plan to eventually make it out with Michonne, I don't really believe in this plan. And I also feel like Michonne doesn't also 100% believe in this plan, because why else would she willingly omit that information if she didn't think that, there could be some sort of outcome that could not work in their favor. That's, would be better if she kept this a secret. And another thing that points to my theory is the A's and B's thing. Because again, just like you said, I thought we were over and done with that. Yeah. And Okafor is certainly over and done. Yeah. So, that kind of leadership and that way of thinking is supposed to be over, especially now that old boy is dead. And now you're just adopting the same terminology, the same way of grouping people and working that into your plan on how to get out. Personally, I think that just going back and making your way back out from the inside, I don't see how that would be the best idea. Yeah. I think it would be better to run once already on the outside and escape, despite the fact that they will come looking for you. But deciding to go back into the city, back into the camp, place Michonne as an unknown, place her as a B, it seems like she's been worked into the plan. I don't know. I might be.
I can see a lot on both sides. First of all, Nat asking Michonne, is it him still?
Yes.
Is it still him? That I thought casted the doubt, and I thought that's part of the motivation of maybe why she's not revealing about RJ. I also think that it could be mildly reckless to motivate somebody further. That there's another reason why you need to get back, because I think people can get reckless, given the fact that et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think a good way of looking at this is that there could be a plan to succeed and not this reckless brute force mentality for the sake of whatever the motivation may be. Wouldn't
you think that a decent plan, this isn't the way the episode goes, but I was just thinking about it. Do you think that a better plan is, if we're going to go the inside route and give these people a run for their money and tear them down from the inside, and if we're still using this A/B system that for some reason Rick is still holding on to, even though it shouldn't be a thing anymore, I feel like it would be a pretty smart thing to do to very visibly label Michonne as an A, to have both of them in power.
But remember, not all A's are allowed to exist. Remember, only thrown in Rick are the only ones that haven't been killed for being an A. It's like they use A's to a certain capacity, and then they off them. So I do think it's smart to bring her in as a B, so that they don't understand just how capable she is, and you're having more skilled on the B level, but doing A things. But I also will say that Rick's mentality may not be completely might not be with clarity, because he has tried multiple times to get out, and it just hasn't worked. Also,
my dude is defeated.
When that helicopter went down, you remember they hit that beacon too for the folks to come. So that's why it came. So that right there was not the moment for them to go, because those helicopters would have just kept looking around for where's everybody at. So I think to kind of like put a nail in the coffin on this part is just like, we got somebody, this is what happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know, but just to wrap up the last few other things too, Dana, aka Michonne, does her little interview, talks about being from Georgia, got her whole profile and everything going. And somebody else was examining this,
And I knew I recognized that voice. I knew I recognized that voice.
But then with that being said, as you mentioned, Rick and Michonne, they sneak off to the side to get it in. She finds out about his hand. He talks about one of the last time he tried to get out. He says that, listen, we're going to get out together. As you mentioned, did not mention about RJ at this point. And then Michonne questions about, like, can we stop them or can we try? Because that's who Michonne is. You know how she's going to roll. She's not playing by the system. She's going to look to try to tear these things down. So with that being said, she got this very metaphorical moment of her going out to examine the base, sees all of their helicopters, their vehicles and everything. She's flicking the lighter because she is ready to burn this place down. In true Michonne light. But then from the person who's looking on from the examination room, we do see it was Jadis, and Jadis sneaks into the room. Jadis is very intrusive, and I gotta be honest, Jadis is borderline obsessed with Rick.
Like, I agree. She's such a good character, though. I love that character.
With all her sarcasm and knowledge, but she says, listen, if you try to escape, I'll make sure everybody, well, I'm paraphrasing, she says, I'll make sure everybody, even the ones I like in Alexandria, are killed. So Rick, what the fuck are you doing? So that does wrap the episode there. But with Jada's introduction, who clearly is going to be a thorn in Rick's butt and in Rick's plan, who knows who Michonne is, who's keeping that a secret because of their deal that they got. I don't know how much longer that's going to go. Also think that I also think that Jadis is definitely going to make it very clear that she is the puppet master of everything. So beyond them trying to escape CR and CRM, they're going to also have to escape Jadis, because Jadis knows everybody, knows what they're capable of, and so on. She has a lot of information that can be detrimental to what they're going to do. That means she has to get got. She has to get got in order for them to succeed. But anyway, with that being said, what's just your overall thoughts about Jadis' appearance, Rick and Jadis knowing Michonne ready to burn this place down, Rick's plan about them getting out together, we'll get away together. All these sorts of different things happen in the last 5 minutes of this episode.
You know, at the end of the first episode, I kind of had an idea of where the second episode was going to go. And I was kind of right. At the end of this episode, I'm like, I don't know what the hell we about to do now. I really don't. I really have no idea. And I was not expecting Jadis to show up. I am very happy because I love her character. And I think that she's a fucking powerhouse. And, you know, she also, just like Major General Beale, has crazy war crime energy. So, and I'm even interested in knowing where on the ranks she is in this situation, because it's been a long time. Yeah. And is she in talks with General Major Beale? Is she above him? Is she below him? Is she the right hand man? I'm really interested in finding out. But yeah, I have no idea how we're gonna get out of this, really, other than she's got to get the axe. But even at that point, who knows, you know, who else could be on the other side of the line? I don't really know. I did love that last scene when Michonne climbs the tower and she has Nat's lighter from his stepdad that says danger, which one is like a badass name, but also pretty metaphorical. Especially with the potential that Nat and Michonne had together. And I also, you know, they spent a lot of time together, especially that last year.
Oh boy.
And I kind of feel like, well, one, like, we know how Michonne does. We know how she does. She comes for blood. She stands on business. So one way or another, she's going to get hers. But now I also feel like there's extra fuel added to the fire, because she wants to do this for Nat as well, with lighter in hand, because that's the whole reason where he was like, you know what, I'm with you. I'm with you. They did this to my people. I already know how it ends, but we're going to do it anyway. And I think that she's going to carry that with her.
You said fuel to the fire. I think you have to just be literal in that statement. She spent that year with Nat. Did she pick up on any of the skills from him and mixing chemicals?
That's a
and
great question.
You know, is she sort of assessing what she can do? Because her versus her 1v1,000 in them, it ain't happening. But could she have do something? I got a prediction.
Let's hear
it. We know that Rick got access to the water systems from his guy.
Yeah.
Could there be means of her and some level of contamination?
I would love to see that, because that also means just like an extension of Nat's legacy, which we do in The Walking Dead. We do, extend characters' legacies long after they actually leave the show, which I think it would be silly not to use that on Nat, because he was so much of a great resource. And then also, this isn't a resource that we normally have in this world. And they did have a lot of time together. So it would seem correct, if they were to leave the department store that they were hiding out in with a couple extra skills on top. And that means, sure, baby, we could go 1 on 10,000. Let's do it. Let's do it. All I need is like 6 of my boys' rockets and a couple cans of gasoline and a plan, maybe that waterway map that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And we got a shot. So I would like to see it.
Yeah. With that being said, folks, we'll wrap it there. That covers all of episode 2, Gone, of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. So that means we're back next week for episode 3. And that episode 3 is titled Bye. So if you put the language together, episode 1 was Years, episode 2 is Gone, episode 3 is Bye, Years Gone By. Looks like we got some storytelling in the titles there. But we're here. We'll be back to break that down and so on. So y'all let us know in the comments your thoughts about this episode. Anything we might have missed, anything else that you really enjoy, any predictions for next week's episode, y'all do all that in the comments below. But until then, y'all be safe, and we'll see you back very soon.